Let's be honest. Do you ever get that feeling? Like you're trying your absolute hardest to be the best grandmother or grandfather ever, pouring your heart and soul into it. But in return, there's this strange tension. Or perhaps you catch a confused look from your adult children, as if you've done something wrong again. You adore your grandchildren, ready to give them all the warmth of your heart. But sometimes, it feels like an invisible wall is growing between you and your loved ones. Sound familiar? It's not because you're bad or unloved. Heaven forbid. Most often, it happens because of simple but very common misunderstandings, like little pebbles in your shoe, that start to rub painfully over time. We live in a rapidly changing world, and what was normal for us when we were raising our own children might be perceived very differently today. Imagine the rules of the game have changed slightly, and they forgot to give us the new instruction manual. Today, without any judgment, with warmth and understanding, we'll discuss 5 such pebbles, 5 common situations that unfortunately can create friction and distance us from the people we hold dearest. But most importantly, I promise, we'll find simple, heartfelt ways to smooth things over. You'll see how small changes in your approach, like a magic key, can open doors to even greater harmony, mutual understanding, and joy in your family. No complex theories, just real-life examples and sincere advice. Stay with me until the end, and let's work together to make your relationships with your children and grandchildren even warmer and stronger. Stay with me until the end, because some of these lessons might surprise you. 1. The just this once trap or undermining parental authority. So, the first situation, familiar to many, let's call it the kind magician trap. You see your grandchildren looking at you with those huge, pleading eyes. How can you refuse an extra piece of candy before dinner when mom strictly forbade it? Or let them watch cartoons for half an hour longer because just this once won't hurt? It seems like a sign of love, a small, innocent mischief, your little secret with your grandchild that makes you special, the kind grandpa, or the best ever grandma. But let's look at it through the parent's eyes. Remember Margaret, 68 years old, a wonderful, energetic woman who adores her 7-year-old grandson, Tom. His parents, Sarah and Michael, try to stick to healthy eating and limit screen time. Margaret, however, remembering her own childhood, where sweets were a rare and immense joy, secretly treated Tom to chocolates and let him play on the tablet longer than allowed. She thought, why be so strict? Childhood should be sweet. I just want to make him happy. She sincerely believed she was doing a good thing. And the result? Tom started being sneaky with his parents, ate poorly at dinner, and threw tantrums when it was time to turn off the tablet. Sarah and Michael felt, well, let's just say, like their rules meant nothing. They saw their parenting efforts being undermined, and worse, felt as if grandma didn't respect them as parents. Imagine you're building a house, brick by brick, and someone comes along and quietly removes stones from the foundation saying, "Oh, come on, it's pretty, let it sit here." The house starts to wobble. That's how it is with parental authority. Margaret was initially offended, but I meant well. But then she had a difficult but honest conversation with Sarah. Her daughter explained that it wasn't about the candy itself, but about consistency and respect for their decisions. Margaret thought about it. She remembered how annoyed she used to get when her own mother-in-law interfered with raising Sarah, and she understood. It wasn't easy, giving up the role of secret agent of joy. But she started asking, "Sarah, do you mind if Tom and I have a small cookie after our walk? Or Michael, can Tom watch one more short cartoon? We agreed on it?" Do you know what happened? The tension disappeared. Tom stopped seeing his grandma as a loophole and started appreciating her differently. And Sarah and Michael felt like they were a team with Margaret rather than opponents. They began to trust her with Tom more often, knowing their rules would be followed. Your benefit. When you support the parents' rules, you don't just avoid conflict. You become a reliable ally for them, a source of support. Grandchildren learn to respect rules and authority, which is crucial for their development. And you? You gain the most valuable thing, the trust and sincere gratitude of your children, and you build a relationship with your grandchildren based not on forbidden fruit, but on genuine closeness and respect. Try becoming the team captain for the parents, not the kind pirate, to, back in my day, or non-stop unsolicited advice. Oh, the temptation to share our wisdom. We've lived through so much. learned so much the hard way, raised children in completely different conditions, without disposable diapers, the internet, and trendy parenting theories. And now we see our children, already adult parents, doing something, well, differently. And we so want to say, wait, you're not holding the baby right. Why are you bundling him up so much, dressing him so lightly? We fed on a schedule, and look, you turned out fine. It seems like we're helping, protecting them from mistakes. But often, our advice, even with the best intentions, sounds like criticism. Meet Arthur, 72 years old. His daughter Helen recently became a mother. Arthur, a former engineer, a thorough man used to analyzing everything, was convinced he knew everything about children. He constantly gave Helen and her husband David advice about sleep schedules, feeding, choosing a stroller, even the tone Helen used with the baby. You're too soft on him. This trendy sling thing is nonsense. A baby needs firm back support. Why is he crying? Probably hungry. Give him formula. Don't torture yourself with breastfeeding. Arthur sincerely wanted to help, to pass on his experience. He remembered how hard it was for him and his wife without help and guidance. But Helen, she felt like she was taking an exam on motherhood and constantly failing it. She withdrew, became irritable, and tried to invite her father over less often. David also felt stressed, sensing that his father-in-law didn't trust their ability to be parents. The atmosphere grew tense. Arthur was bewildered. I only want what's best. Why are they so prickly? The turning point came when Arthur accidentally overheard Helen talking to a friend, tearfully complaining that she felt like a worthless mother because of her dad's constant instructions. It cut Arthur to the heart. He realized his help had become a source of stress for his daughter. It was hard for him to change, as he was used to being the authority figure. But he decided to try a different approach. He started to be quiet more often and listen, observe. Instead of criticism, he asked questions. How are you feeling, sweetheart? How can I really help? And if he really felt the urge to share his experience, he did it gently. You know, when you were little, sometimes this helped us. Maybe it will help you too, or maybe not. Things are different now. And a miracle happened. Helen relaxed. She started asking her father for advice herself, knowing he wouldn't judge, but would support her. Arthur saw what a wonderful, intuitive mother his daughter had become. Their relationship warmed up. He stopped being the know-it-all professor and became the wise, loving grandfather and father. Your benefit. By holding back the flood of unsolicited advice, you give your children the space to gain self-confidence as parents. You show them your trust and respect. Instead of a wall of defensiveness, they will open the door for real dialogue. You'll be surprised how often they come to you for advice themselves if they know they'll be heard without judgment. This is the path to deep, mutual respect. Remember, sometimes the best advice is to stay quiet at the right moment and just offer a hug. If you're still watching this video and finding the information useful, leave a comment below, maybe the number 2, or just something nice if what I'm talking about is helpful, so I know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time to fix that. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Alright, let's move on. 3. The Toy Everest or trying to buy love. Who among us doesn't love spoiling grandchildren? Seeing their eyes light up with excitement when you give them a new doll, car, or the latest construction set. Sometimes it seems the more gifts, the more love, or maybe we're trying to compensate for what we couldn't give our own children, or we live far away and want to be present materially in our grandchildren's lives. But sometimes this avalanche of gifts turns into a problem. Evelyn, 70, lived in a different city from her son Mark and his family. Every visit or package from her was like a volcanic eruption of toys and sweets for her granddaughters, Emma and Olivia. The girls' room already resembled a toy store warehouse. Evelyn enjoyed their initial excitement, but noticed that their interest in new things faded quickly. Mark and his wife Lisa were desperate. Firstly, they simply had nowhere to put it all. Secondly, they wanted to teach their daughters to value attention and time spent together, not things. They felt that Grandma was trying to buy the granddaughter's love, and it hurt them. They tried hinting gently, but Evelyn brushed it off. Oh, come on, it's for the girls. I want to make them happy. She didn't understand that her generosity was creating tension. One day, Lisa decided to have a frank conversation. She thanked Evelyn for her love and care, but explained their position. Quality time spent together was more important to them than the quantity of toys. She suggested that instead of expensive gifts, Evelyn could give experiences. Go to the zoo together during a visit, bake cookies, read a book, teach the girls to knit or make something with their hands. Or, if she really wanted to buy something, to ask their advice or give one truly desired item for a special occasion. Evelyn was puzzled at first. Arriving empty-handed felt somehow wrong to her, but she decided to try. On her next visit, she brought not a mountain of gifts, but a kit for doing crafts together and tickets to a puppet theater. Do you know what the granddaughters said after she left? "Grandma was so much fun this time. We had such a great time." Evelyn realized the most precious gifts are memories, those very moments when she laughed with her granddaughters while making funny figures or held their hands in the dark theater. This turned out to be much more valuable than any doll. Her relationship with her son and daughter-in-law also improved. They saw that they had been heard and understood. Your benefit. By shifting the focus from material to emotional, you create a much deeper and stronger bond with your grandchildren. You teach them to value human warmth, attention, shared activities, an invaluable life lesson. You free your children from the toy clutter and feelings of awkwardness. Instead of the fleeting excitement of a new item, you give and receive something that lasts forever, a treasure chest of warm memories. Ask yourself, what will the grandchildren remember in 20 years? The 10th toy car, or how you baked an apple pie together? 4. But look at your cousin, or the poison of comparisons and criticism. We all want to be proud of our grandchildren. Sometimes this pride or our own expectations push us towards comparisons. Look how well your cousin Michael is doing in school. Why are you so shy? Your sister was the life of the party at your age. Why are you eating out, dressing so slowly? We think we're motivating, encouraging better results. But for a child, comparison is almost always poison. They don't hear, "You can do better," but "You're not good enough." "I love the other person more than you." Even criticism that seems harmless to us, "You're so clumsy, you always make a mess," can deeply wound a little heart. David, 75, is the grandfather of 2 grandsons, active, sporty Jake, and quiet, thoughtful Noah. David himself was an athlete in his youth and constantly highlighted Jake's successes, holding him up as an example to Noah. "Look how fast Jake runs. Why are you dawdling?" Jake scored another goal. "Well done. And you, Noah, still sitting with your books?" He might also good-naturedly tease Noah about his slowness or thoughtfulness. David loved both grandsons, but it seemed natural to him to encourage strong points and improve weak ones. The boys' parents, Emily and Tom, saw how Noah withdrew into himself around his grandfather, how the light went out of his eyes. They also noticed tension between the brothers. Emily tried talking to her father several times, but David brushed it off. "Come on, I mean it lovingly. A man needs to be a fighter." The situation changed after a school concert where Noah played the violin. He didn't play perfectly, but with such feeling that many in the audience had tears in their eyes. After the concert, David, out of habit, was about to say something like, "Well, not bad, but you played cleaner last time." But he saw his grandson standing there, tense, expecting criticism, and then it dawned on David. He went over, hugged Noah, and said, "You know, Noah, I've never heard anyone play with so much soul. You did great. I'm very proud of you." Noah looked up at him, his eyes full of surprise and happiness. It was a turning point. David began to notice and appreciate the unique talents of each grandchild. He praised Jake for his athletic achievements and Noah for his musicality, curiosity, and kind heart. He stopped comparing and started highlighting individuality. Your benefit. By refraining from comparisons and careless criticism, you help your grandchildren develop healthy self-esteem. Every child is unique, like a flower in a garden. A rose is beautiful in its own way, a daisy in its own way, and you can't demand a daisy become a rose. When you notice and praise the individual strengths of each grandchild, you make them feel loved and valued for who they are. This strengthens their self-confidence and your relationship with them. Parents will be immensely grateful to you for truly seeing and appreciating their children. Remember, your job is to be the gardener who carefully tends to each flower, not the judge at a beauty contest. 5. The unexpected guest effect or violating personal boundaries. We love our children and grandchildren so much that sometimes we forget. They have their own lives, their own home, their own rhythm. And our desire to be close, to help, to participate, can sometimes cross boundaries. Dropping by without warning, because you just happened to be passing by, staying for dinner, and then until late evening, even though it's clear the hosts are tired, starting to rearrange things in the fridge or tidy up the kitchen without asking because it's more convenient this way. We think it's a sign of caring. But for a young family, it can feel like an invasion of their personal space. Barbara, 67, lived near her daughter Susan and her family. Barbara is an energetic, active woman, used to being in control. She often dropped by their place without calling, especially on weekends. She might start washing dishes while Susan was feeding the baby, or give instructions to her son-in-law Paul on how best to hang a shelf. She sincerely believed she was helping, taking the load off the young couple. "I can see you're tired. Let me wash up." "Paul, why are you taking so long? Let me show you." But Susan and Paul felt uncomfortable in their own home. They sometimes just wanted to be the three of them, to relax at their own pace. Barbara's visits, though well-intentioned, disrupted their plans and created the feeling that their home wasn't their castle, but a public thoroughfare. They loved Barbara, but her help began to exhaust them. The turning point came when Barbara once again arrived without calling and found Susan in tears. She had simply had a rough day with the baby and wanted some quiet. Barbara rushed to comfort and help, but Susan politely but firmly asked her to leave, saying she needed to be alone. Barbara was shocked and hurt. That evening, Paul called her and very gently explained that they loved her very much and appreciated her help, but it was important for them to feel like masters of their own home and to have their own personal space and time. He asked her to simply call before coming over and always ask if help was needed and what kind specifically. It was hard for Barbara to accept. She felt rejected, but she loved her daughter and wanted to maintain a good relationship. She started calling. "Susan, hi, how are you? Would I be interrupting if I pop over for an hour?" Or, "I see you're tired. How can I really help? Shall I watch the baby while you rest, or run to the store?" And guess what? They started inviting her over much more often, because her visits stopped being surprises and became welcome events. Susan and Paul relaxed, knowing their boundaries were respected. Barbara understood that real help isn't doing what you think is necessary, but what you're asked to do. Your benefit. By respecting the personal boundaries of your children and their family, you show them your respect for them as independent adults. You give them the space to build their own household and family life. This relieves huge tension and creates an atmosphere of trust. When your visits and help are predictable and agreed upon, they are genuinely welcomed. You stop being the uninvited guest and become a welcome and beloved family member whose presence brings joy, not stress. Remember, even the best intentions require tact and respect for others' space. It's better to knock and ask than to barge in with a cake at the wrong moment. So there you have it, my dears. 5 situations. Did you recognize yourself in any of these moments? Don't blame yourself. We are all human. We are all learning. The most important thing is our immense desire to love and be loved, our readiness to understand and change for the sake of family harmony. Your life experience, your wisdom, these are priceless gifts. You are not just grandparents. You are the keepers of family traditions, a source of unconditional love and support. And you absolutely deserve the warmest, most joyful relationships with your children and grandchildren. Remember that small steps towards understanding, respecting boundaries, and sincere communication work real miracles. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't hesitate to talk. And most importantly, to listen. Your hearts are full of love, and that's the most important thing. Believe in yourself, in your wisdom, and in the power of your love, which can melt any ice of misunderstanding and build the strongest bridges between generations. You can definitely do it.